Well, they bring in a new leader. Many organizations have people in charge who are most concerned with not winning, or often they're concerned about their perks and their privileges. But when you need to change an organization around, you bring in a Vince Lombardi, you bring in a General Patton, you put them in charge and say, go for it. And they go in there and they have only one thought, that's to win. And they're totally committed to victory. And B is the leader must be passionate about the importance of the results aimed at. I've done a lot of work on entrepreneurship and business startups. Also business turnarounds and business successes and failures. And here's one of the interesting observations, and I write it in red, is that the leader must fall in love with the result. Must fall in love with success. If you're going to start a new business, I will tell you this. The key to getting into a new business, and people ask me this all the time, is what business should I get into? I will tell you what it is. A business you're passionate about. A product or service you're passionate about. You love it. It's so important to you. You cannot stop thinking about it or talking about it. You love to use it and to sell it to your mother, your father, your sister, your brother. Good test. Can you sell it to your mother? Can you sell it to your brother? Can you sell it to your best friend? Can you sell it to your coworkers? Can you talk about it so confidently and passionately to anybody? If you feel reluctant or uneasy or tense talking about it to the people that you know closely, I can guarantee you'll never be successful selling it to people you don't know at all. Many people get into businesses, by the way, because they think they're going to make a lot of money. That is exactly the wrong reason for getting into a business, because you will fail. You must get into a business of any kind, first income, second income, whatever it happens to be, because you love it. You're in love with the business. You love the products. Whoa! I mean, you are on fire with it. Because if you only do it for the money, what we have found is that as soon as you hit the wall, which you will collapse. You will not have enough energy to stick to it when things get rough. But if you love it, you will keep going and keep going and keep going. You'll be like the Energizer Bunny. You'll just keep going and going and going. So it's very important that you have that commitment. I was on the plane with a very nice Jewish woman from New York coming back to San Diego. Very smart woman, real estate, wealthy. And we're talking about homes. She had a home not far from where we lived. And we're talking about the homes that we looked at. And we finally decided on this home. And it was the only home that we looked at out of 150 that we would have bought. And she said, honey, she said, it grabbed you, didn't it? It grabbed you. Never buy a house if it doesn't grab you the first time you walk in the door. She said, that's the key. It's got to grab you. And I always remember that expression. If it's right for you, it grabs you. If the person is right for you, by the way, there is an instant connection, a catalytic reaction the instant you meet them the first time. And if the job is right for you, company's right for you, business opportunity is right for you, it grabs you. You love it. It just holds on to you. It's almost like a lump. It digs into you. And if it doesn't, let it pass. Rule for success. Never attempt to do anything that your heart isn't in. Now, if your best friend brings you the most fantastic business opportunity in the world and you look at it and it doesn't grab you, pass it by. Pass it by. Because you won't be successful unless your whole heart is in it. All successful men and women have high levels of commitment to what they're doing. And unsuccessful men and women are going through the motions because deep down inside, they just don't love it enough. Okay, number 5 is responsible. This is very important. It's one of the 2 or 3 most important qualities of exceptional people is they're highly responsible. Is the leader accepts complete responsibility for the activities and results of the organization. The leader never passes the buck. The leader says if it's to be, it's up to me. In fact, the leader says, and here are the words, I am responsible. I am responsible. The leader doesn't get mad, the leader gets even. The leader doesn't get angry or upset, the leader gets going. While some people are making excuses, leaders are making progress. The leaders say, I am responsible. If there's a problem, I am responsible. No excuses. No blaming. As Harry Truman once said, the buck stops here. If you want an answer, bring it to me. We don't pass it on to someone else. So no excuses, no blaming, no criticizing. Criticizing is trying to put somebody else in charge, trying to make someone else the go. Never, no bad mouthing. As a matter of fact, if you want to give yourself an exercise, for the next 24 hours, refuse to make excuses, blame anyone, criticize, or badmouth. See if you can do that for 24 hours. See if you can do it for 24 minutes. Of course, it's going to wipe out your conversation for a while because you won't have much to talk about. But you know what successful people do? I'll tell you what. They think and talk about what they want. And you know what unsuccessful people do? They think and talk about what they don't want. And you know what successful people get? More and more of what they want. And you know what unsuccessful people get? More and more of what they don't want, and they can't figure it out. Golly, how come my life sucks? It's because you suck, sir. That's why. You know. You know, there's an old saying, I'm a self-made man. But if I had to do it over again, I'd call in a little extra help. The fact is, we're all self-made. And we make ourselves, and we continue making ourselves in the process of creation by the way we think about ourselves and our lives. And if we want to change our life on the outside, we go to work to change our life on the inside. But we're where we are and what we are because of our own thoughts. If we're not happy, start changing our own thoughts. Thoughts always precede actions. First we think, then we act. So therefore, if we want to act differently and get different results, we start to think differently first. Now, it's a hard thing to do. Hardest thing of all is to change your thoughts. But here's the great breakthrough, is what is the only one thing in the entire world over which you have any control? Is your thinking. No matter what anybody else does in the whole world, you can choose your own thinking. Viktor Frankl, in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, said the last great freedom of mankind is the freedom to choose your attitude under any given set of external conditions. You have the freedom to choose your attitude. And in that, you choose everything else. B is never complain, never explain. You know, Robert Hughes wrote a book a couple of years ago called The Culture of Complaint. And basically what it says is that America is like a mass of complaints. Complaints, complaints, complaints. Wah, 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 wah. Everybody is complaining. Complain, complain, complain. Well, what you do, and you'll find this, by the way, if you're not careful, you get up in the morning, you complain for the whole day. Hi, how are you doing? Well, all right, my back hurts. You know, the air conditioning doesn't work that well. Light's not too good. My pen doesn't work. I couldn't get in for breakfast and room service was slow. How about you? Oh, I could beat that. I had all those. Plus, I couldn't get my lawn and everything else. So we go, wah, 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 wah. It's called Ain't It Awful. Let's play Ain't It Awful. So we play Ain't It Awful hour after hour. So for the rest of the day, I'm going to give you an exercise. Just think and talk about the things you want. And the things we talk about here, and refuse to think or talk about what you don't want. In your conversations, if you find yourself saying anything negative or complaining, stop and say, wait a minute, just for today, I'm only going to think and talk about what I want. I'm not going to think and talk about what I don't want. It's very simple. Try it. See how tough you are. See what you're made of. See if you've got gravel in your guts or just marshmallow. See if you're tough. Can you talk about what you want and not talk about what you don't want? Let's see. Huh? If I could have $100 from every one of you, if you couldn't do it, I'd win. Because many of you are sitting there thinking, well, I couldn't do that. I wouldn't have anything to talk about. Gotcha. Gotcha. You even thinking about it causes you to think about not thinking about it. I mean, unbelievable. Number 6 is concentration. Now, concentration is really the mark of the truly superior person. If there is one key for success in life, is the ability to concentrate single-mindedly on one thing at a time. It is so important, it's overwhelmingly important. I'm working on a book on this now, just the single book on concentration. Because if a person can learn habitually and systematically to concentrate on the most important thing, they can conquer the world. And if they can't, they'll always have to work for someone else who can and will supervise them. So, concentration is the ability to focus critical energies on the most vital results required. This is numero uno. If you have all the other skills in the world, but you cannot concentrate them like a laser beam, then to that degree they are ineffective. A, leaders focus on the needs of the situation. Average people start off with their own personal needs. Superior people start off with, what does the situation need of me? My little girl runs and she falls down and she hurts her knee. She scrapes her knee. And does she need for me to say, now, from now on, you be careful. You walk, pick up your feet, and I've told you all these years, don't you run or you'll fall down and so on, when she's crying and she's got a scraped knee. No, what she needs is to be picked up and held and loved and kissed and have her knee cleaned off and everything else. And later on, maybe she needs some advice. But right now, what she needs is something different. In every situation, the superior person stands back and says, what does this situation need of me? And then they focus on the needs of their situation. The average person, the mediocre person, is always focused on what do I need? What do I want? Me. Ah, shut up. What does the situation need? The leader always starts with the needs of the situation. B is leaders set clear priorities on the expenditure of resources. Since resources are always limited, the leader always has to be choosing. Now, what is the critical resource that you have to make decisions on? What's the critical resource that you as an individual have? Time, absolutely. Most precious of all resources. So leaders are very, very fastidious and good about setting priorities on the use of time. Non-leaders are not. Non-leaders try to do everything at once and end up doing nothing particularly well. Leaders concentrate on one or two things that make all the difference, and they concentrate on doing it very well. So that's very important. C is leaders focus on strengths. This is one of the most important things you do. They focus on strengths in themselves, strengths in the situation, strengths in their own abilities, strengths in other people. What do non-leaders focus on and talk about? Weaknesses. The fact of the matter is that strong people have far more weaknesses than strengths. You have remarkable strengths. You have a couple of strengths that are so powerful they're scary. In fact, if anybody knew how good you were, you'd probably have to be licensed to the local police department. You have strengths that are uncanny, but strengths are like gold. You've got to get them out of the ground in order to use them. What are your strengths? What is your greatest strength? What is your greatest ability? What is the one thing that you are uniquely equipped by nature to do in an extraordinary fashion that can really make a difference in your world and in the lives of other people? Remember, a strength in and of itself is like something in the basement. It has no great advantage. A strength is only relative to how you can use it to help other people, to do something that enriches and uplifts the lives of others. What strengths do you have that make it uniquely possible for you to make a real difference in your world? The ability to ask and answer that question accurately can change your whole future. And by the way, before today is over, you'll have had a chance to more accurately assess that. I promise you. So number 7 is excellence. And excellence is really important. Excellence means leaders are committed to excellent performance of the business task. And that means no compromise. No prisoners. No compromise. Peter Drucker has studied the excellent executive, and he's done studies for 50 years, and he finds that excellent executives, and it's interesting, if I were to say how many people here are executives, what would you say? Of course, we all are executives. Do you know what the definition of an executive is? An executive is a person who is responsible for results, for getting something done. So, by that definition, we're all executives. So, he said, what is the quality of the effective executive? He said he has worked with them in every type of company. Fat and thin, tall and short. Every racial, ethnic, religious group in the world. Educated, well-educated, extroverted, introverted. They all have one quality, is they're absolutely ruthless about excellent work. They're absolutely ruthless. They're absolutely demanding. They are absolutely uncompromising when it comes to doing the job well. Remember I said a minute ago that all excellent people are fastidious about details? Well, you cannot possibly be excellent without being fastidious about details, and you can't be fastidious about details without doing it vastly better than the average. So the two go hand in hand. Superior people do not compromise in terms of quality. They will take no prisoners. And average people are always saying, that's good enough. Malcolm Forbes had a little one-liner. Some years ago he wrote, good enough seldom is. And remember that, good enough seldom is. When a person says that's good enough, you know that you're working with a mediocre person. Good enough seldom is. I worked with a company once, and I worked with them, and I spent tens of thousands of dollars with them, and I discontinued my working with them and never worked with them again when I heard one of them say, it was reported to me, not even in my earshot, that's good enough for this project. Now, it wasn't good enough. But that's good enough was the attitude of poison that literally destroyed that business relationship and destroyed that person's career and company. The attitude that that's good enough is fatal. Don't ever allow it. It's never good enough. It's never good enough. And if it's good enough for today, that was yesterday. That's today. Tomorrow it has to be infinitely better. A, leadership is the ability to choose the area of excellence. Since you can't do everything in an excellent fashion, because of the limit of time and resources, you must decide which things you are going to do in an excellent fashion and focus on those.